In 2020, Studio Ghibli made their first ever 3D animated movie called Earwig and the Witch, directed by Gorô Miyazaki, and this is how people reacted. Johnny Johnny Yes Papa looks different here. If your child liked this, then you are raising them poorly. 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.7 IMDb, from the makers of CoComelon and Baby Bus. Ultimately, bar some tedious spell-making scenes, nothing happens. Harrowingly poor. This movie is hated. It's not like general dislike or less popular. It's like, no, people outright hate this movie with passion. And being a big Ghibli fan myself, I just wanted to find out how bad this movie can be. And it is as bad as people say. Might be even worse than people say. In fact, it was so bad that I went ahead and read the book that it was based on just to find out like what the hell happened here, what got lost in translation. Not only that, but I also forced myself to sit through the Tales from the Earthsea. Personally, I believe that movie is much worse in terms of how much it tortures you. But objectively speaking, Earwig and the Witch is just horrendous. Yeah, I've been through a lot, and that's why I just want to convert it into a video. Consider this my therapy for sitting through both of these movies. Now, this movie is adapted from the book by Diana Wynne Jones, the same author who wrote Howl's Moving Castle. And one thing you need to understand that this book was a posthumous release, or that's just how you say it. Basically, the author passed away, and after that, this book was released. And because of this, the book is not very complete. I mean, story ends, but you can clearly see that there is a lot of stuff that's missing, which was supposed to be there. The story is about a young kid called Earwig. She is dropped off at this orphanage when she is a little tiny, teeny baby by some random witch. Who is that witch? I don't know. No one ever explains it. But Earwig grows up to be 10 or 11 and gets adopted by this very weird and spooky looking creepy couple. And turns out this couple has lots of like magical powers, and the lady is a witch. And she adopted Earwig only and only because she wanted a slave. She wanted someone to help around the house in her witch workshop and just use that person to death. She basically wants to treat Earwig like manufacturing workers in third world countries. And this doesn't work with Earwig because she is rebellious by nature. And then the whole movie becomes this conflict between like a witch wants to control Earwig, but Earwig rebels. And will she be able to escape from this tyranny of this horrible witch? And there's also another character called Mandrake, who is husband of the witch. And his character is also not explained that well. But this is the gist of it. This is how the story works. Now, I did some research after watching this movie, and I realized that this movie flopping is not a big surprise. Because first of all, you have this sky-high expectations. Like when people hear the word Ghibli, they have this like idea of beautiful landscapes, this really liquidy, smooth animation, wonderful voice acting, even in dubs. Like I mostly watch Ghibli movies in dub, and I love them. They're so well done. And most importantly, they are synonymous with 2D hand-drawn animation. Even when they use 3D elements, they present it as 2D because that's what people love. So simply making a Ghibli movie in 3D feels perverse. It feels wrong, that it's not supposed to be this way. And it is asking already a lot from the audience, like, hey, get used to it, like completely different art style and presentation. On top of that, this is Ghibli's first 3D attempt at any feature-length movie. They have never worked with it. Second, it is directed by and led by Gorô Miyazaki, which doesn't have a good track record. Like, he has one good movie, Up from Poppy Hill, and that was also written by Hayao Miyazaki, and he constantly intervened to make sure that the movie is good. Then it is a comeback movie. So When Marnie Was There came out in 2014, and since then, all the way into 2021 when this movie was released, there was nothing in between. So people were hungry for a Ghibli title. On top of that, if this wasn't enough, they are attempting to adapt a story that is not finished from the get-go. So yeah, no wonder this movie flopped at the box office. This already has so much stuff going against it. Now visually, this movie is atrocious, and I cannot even give it up to that, oh, it's just Ghibli's first 3D movie. No, it is just bad by any standards. It looks worse than 1995 Toy Story. worse than the early DreamWorks movies. It has some of the shots, like it's not an exaggeration. They actually look at the level of the Johnny Johnny Yes Papa rhymes. Like the reviews are not lying. You do feel like you're watching Cocomelon at times. I mean, once in a while you will see some nice landscape shots. Some of the character designs are nice. I think the only character that genuinely is an improvement from the book is Mandrake. I think he looks much better here compared to his illustrations in book. And also, like the hair of the witch, when they're curly and they're stylistic, they can look good for a second. But the worst offender is the main character. Earwig just looks like a plastic doll, especially her hair. Like if you compare it to the illustrations in the book, you can see just how lifeless the movie version is. It's just like pure plastic doll. Now, when you watch this movie, it is very clear that Gorô wants to break the Ghibli formula to a certain extent and try some really unique and interesting things that Ghibli usually does not do. And I'm all up for it. Like, he sometimes moves camera around in really fast way, zooms in and zooms out. You never see in a Ghibli production, right? Outside of that, the camera work and the way all the visuals are framed and presented, it just looks boring. And the music is also not that interesting. I mean, for the most part, you get your classic Ghibli style presentation, but none of the melodies are interesting enough that they stay with you. And to Goro's credit, he does experiment and try to do something with rock music. And even though it doesn't work that well, I just appreciate that he's, trying to do something new. The pacing is also weird. I mean, the only silver lining here, I say, is that it never felt painfully boring. Like, movie does go from very fast to slow, then it just feels like it is stuck in the narrative and just not moving at all. But for the most part, it is nothing as torturous as I would say Tales from the Earthsea. Like, that movie, I had to stop it 3 times and take a walk because it was that painful. This movie is not that bad. It's only like, what, 80 minutes long, and so yeah, your pain ends quickly as well. And just like the technicals, writing is just as bad. The dialogues don't feel interesting at all. And the biggest culprit, I guess, the most frustrating point of this movie is that in the middle section, it just stops moving. So, as I said, the witch comes in to the orphanage. This evil witch comes and adopts Earwig. And when they go back to witch's house, and Earwig rebels, and the witch says that, no, you're my slave. And this dynamic just keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for such a long time that you're just like, is there anything else in this movie that it wants to offer? And no matter what the consequences are, like Earwig is trying to rebel against this witch and she's trying to cook up a spell of her own in the witch's workspace, you never feel any sense of urgency or danger. You'd never feel that any of these characters are real people and you're watching them. And after watching Tales from the Earthsea as well, I can tell that the Gorô Miyazaki really struggles with making his characters feel human. His heart is in the right place, but whenever you witness his characters, they just feel like NPCs. It's just like some wooden cardboards that you're witnessing that's just moving. Same in this movie, and it doesn't even have that like typical Ghibli magic, because at least Tales from Earthsea gets saved from gorgeous animation and the beautiful score. Like that, at least that is a saving grace there. Here we don't have that. I mean, this is a witch's home. Like, it should be one of the easier things to make it feel magical. You have witch's workspace. You have a hidden room where Mandrake lives. You have his library, because Mandrake apparently wants to be a writer in the movie version. Like, imagine a magic library inside this weird, spooky house of a witch. How can you make that boring? But this movie manages to do that. Like, whenever you visit any of these places, they don't feel like they're lived in. And when I say characters are one note, it's not any exaggeration. Again, like Witch is always snotty, Earwig is always rebellious, Mandrake is always angry. Between all of this, the cat is the only character that has some dimension to it, which is, I don't know what to do with that. Now, one thing you must have realized that I'm not giving you too much detailed information about the plot. And that is not like my choice, because there is literally nothing else in this movie that happens. So as I said, that the witch adopts Earwig and the Earwig rebels back. So witch gets angry. So she tries to give Earwig the worms. And it's like a running gag. Like, she says it like a million times, like, I'm going to give you the worms, I'm going to give you the worms. And basically she just throws a pile of magic worms on top of Earwig. But Earwig rebels and she has some solution. That's it. And between all of this, the Mandrake gets really, really angry. And then we just have a 1 year long time skip, and the witch doesn't bother Earwig anymore. What happened in between? What happened between Mandrake and the witch? I have no idea. The movie never explains. And that is, I guess, the biggest sin of this movie. Now, as I said in the beginning, the book is not finished. I mean, it technically ends, but you can clearly see that there's a big chunk of the story missing because the author passed away. And the movie, because of that, adds in new material, right, to finish the story. The only problem is that it is still incomplete somehow. Like, they added quite a bit new material. Like, they made up this entire new backstory about Mandrake and the witch, and then these three together had this music band and they fell apart and whatnot. And despite all of that, the ending is still just as incomplete as the book. I don't know like how they managed to do that, but they did it. It is an achievement in itself. And I think this is the one that rightfully pisses off everyone the most. It's like, finish your damn movie at least. Like, if you're gonna ask someone to invest hour and a half of their life, give them expectations of a nice Ghibli movie, at least give them a complete movie. But nope, it just ends. They completely skipped the third act and directly went to the epilogue, where it's just like, yeah. And also, like, the movie, as I said, sets up this really cool witch that comes in on motorbike in the beginning and drops off the earwig, and you clearly expect that, okay, so how is this witch gonna play out in the story? She comes back at the very end for one single scene, and she just smiles like, Now, after finishing this movie, I was just so perplexed that I needed to check out the source material, and I read the book, which was kind of a waste of time, to be honest, because the movie, for the most part, is a bit by bit copy of the book. Like, there's literally no change, except the added backstory about the Mandrake and the witch, and then they have this music band, whatever. So I don't recommend reading this book if you have already seen the movie. You will just relive the torture of this unfinished ending. The only reason I see that you should check out the book is for the illustrations. I think they're quite well done. They look very lively and far better than whatever the hell we get in the movie. But for the story content, if you have seen the movie, you have read the book. Zero difference. I do believe this project had potential. I know the way it was produced and made, it was set up to fail, but the core material inside actually has a lot of interesting stuff. I think you can make a movie in the Coraline genre, like traumatizes you as a kid, but now you love it as an adult. Or Kubo and Two Strings. I know they are stop motion, but this movie could have been in that like weirdly creepy zone. I mean, like Coraline, you have a small setting and you have this young character of a girl who is rebellious. You have this creepy house that you can explore. You have this creepy workspace of the witch, this magic room and whatnot. All the material is there. They just needed someone who knew how to execute it properly. This could have been another Ghibli classic, but it's not. What we get is, well, Cocomelon. The only thing that I find really weird while reading reviews of this movie is just how easily people can get personal. So if you didn't know, Gorô Miyazaki, the director of this movie, and his father Hayao Miyazaki, they don't get along very well. And people consistently use that as to attack Goro and make fun of him for this movie not being good. And I think that's just really disgusting. I think this movie is bad enough that you can shred it apart in many different ways. Like, you don't have to personally attack somebody like that. And especially, like, if you have seen any of the Ghibli documentaries, you will realize just how painful it is for both of them, like, to live like this. And that's it. These are my thoughts on the worst Ghibli movie I have ever seen. Not the most torturous one, that's Tales from the Earth Sea, but objectively speaking, this is the worst movie Ghibli has ever made. And thank you for watching all the way through. If you genuinely finished until this point, really, you're awesome. Thank you for giving me your attention and letting me share my thoughts with you. So thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Until then, goodbye, take care, and have some fun with fiction.